Ethan Cross stood in front of the bedroom mirror, adjusting his tie for the third time, even though it was already perfect. Perfection had always been his language: pressed suits, scheduled calls, risks calculated down to decimals. It was how he built his empire. It was also how he ignored the quiet warnings life placed in front of him. Behind him, Clara sat on the edge of the bed, cradling their newborn son. Leo's tiny fingers curled around her thumb as if he already understood how fragile the world could be. Dark circles shadowed Clara's eyes. She hadn't slept properly since the birth. "Do you really have to go?" she asked softly. Ethan sighed, checking his watch. "The board needs me. This deal keeps everything afloat. I'll be back before you know it." Clara looked past him, toward the open nursery door. "I don't feel right about leaving him with her." Ethan turned. "Mira, she's qualified. Background checked. Highly recommended." He smiled, confident. "You worry too much." That smile hurt more than anger would have. Mira appeared in the doorway, hands folded neatly in front of her. She wore a calm expression, too calm. Her eyes flicked briefly to Clara, then to the baby, lingering a second too long. "I'll take good care of him," she said. Her voice was smooth, practiced. Clara hesitated before gently handing Leo over. The baby whimpered, his face scrunching as if sensing the shift. Clara's arms remained outstretched for a moment after Mira stepped away. Ethan didn't notice. He kissed Clara's cheek, distracted, already halfway gone. "Call me if you need anything." She nodded, but her eyes filled with unshed tears. As Ethan walked toward the door, Clara whispered, "Please don't be late." He paused, but only for a second. Then he grabbed his coat and left, the sound of the door closing echoing louder than it should have. Upstairs, the baby began to cry. Mira gently shut the nursery door. By nightfall, Clara would be dead, and Ethan Cross would spend the rest of his life wishing he had listened to the one moment that asked him to stay. The house had never sounded so empty. Ethan Cross stepped inside just after midnight, his suitcase still in his hand. The business trip had ended abruptly, numbers blurred, meetings cut short, a pressure in his chest he couldn't explain. He told himself it was exhaustion. He told himself nothing was wrong. But the silence said otherwise. Usually, the house breathed, soft footsteps, a television murmuring somewhere, Clara humming as she moved from room to room. Now there was only stillness, thick and unnatural, like the air before a storm. "Mira," Ethan called. No answer. He set his bag down slowly. His eyes drifted to the staircase. One step caught his attention, a dark stain on the edge of the carpet, half scrubbed, half forgotten. His throat tightened. He climbed the stairs, each step heavier than the last. The nursery door was closed. That alone made his pulse spike. From inside came a sound. Singing. A low, steady melody, unfamiliar and unsettling. Not a lullaby, not gentle. It carried something sharp beneath the softness, like a blade wrapped in silk. Ethan reached the door and pushed it open. The light was dim. Shadows stretched along the walls. Mira stood beside the crib, her back to him, rocking slowly as she sang. Leo lay inside, wide awake, his tiny fists clenched, his face pale beneath the moonlight spilling through the window. Mira didn't turn around. "You're home early," she said calmly, as if she'd been expecting him. Ethan's heart hammered. "Where's my wife?" The singing stopped. Mira finally turned. Her smile was small, controlled. "She's resting." Something about the way she said it made Ethan freeze. Resting wasn't the word. It was an ending. Ethan stepped closer to the crib. Leo flinched at his movement, letting out a thin, frightened cry. Ethan scooped him up, pressing him against his chest. His son trembled. "You shouldn't have come back tonight," Mira said softly. Ethan looked at her, really looked this time. The warmth he once thought he saw in her eyes was gone. In its place was something cold and deliberate. "Where is Clara?" he demanded. Myra's gaze flicked to the hallway, toward the stairs, toward the darkness. Ethan followed her eyes, and that was when he understood. The house wasn't quiet, it was holding its breath. Ethan didn't remember setting Leo back into the crib. His hands were shaking too badly. All he could focus on was Mira standing between him and the doorway, her posture relaxed, almost polite, as if this were a normal conversation between employer and employee. "Move," Ethan said, his voice low and unsteady. Mira didn't. Instead, she tilted her head, studying him the way someone studies a problem already solved. "You finally noticed," she said. Clara did too. The name hit him like a punch to the chest. "What did you do to her?" Ethan whispered. Mira exhaled slowly, as if relieved the question had finally been asked. "She was brave," she said. "Braver than you." Ethan's nails dug into his palms. "Answer me." She figured it out. Mira continued calmly. "About me. About you. About what your company buried 5 years ago." Her lips curved slightly. "The factory. The fire. The families who were paid to stay quiet." Ethan's head spun. "That was handled legally." Mira laughed. Short, humorless. "Legally doesn't mean morally." She stepped closer. Ethan didn't back away, though every instinct screamed at him to grab his child and run. "My sister worked there," Mira said. "She died choking on smoke while your lawyers argued about liability." Her eyes finally sharpened, burning with something raw. "Clara found the letters. The old settlement documents. She confronted me." Ethan's voice cracked. "You killed her." Mira nodded once. No tears. No shame. "She slipped," she said lightly. "That's what the report will say." Ethan reached into his pocket without thinking and pressed his phone's record button. His heart pounded so loudly he was sure she could hear it. "You planned this," he said. "Yes." She smiled then. Wide, satisfied. "I wanted you to feel what I felt. To leave someone you love behind and come back to nothing." A sound came from the crib. Leo stirred, whimpering. Mira glanced at the baby, her expression softening for half a second, then hardening again. He was never the target. Ethan swallowed. "Then why stay?" "Because watching you break," she said, stepping aside at last, was the punishment. Footsteps thundered in the distance, sirens, growing louder. Mira raised her hands slowly, surrendering without resistance. As the police burst in, Ethan collapsed beside the crib, holding his son, realizing too late. The smile had been the confession all along. Morning light crept into the nursery like it didn't belong there. Soft, indifferent, as if the night hadn't shattered everything. Ethan sat on the floor, his back against the crib, Leo sleeping against his chest. He hadn't moved in hours. Police voices echoed downstairs, low and distant, like they were happening in another world. His shirt was stained with dried tears he didn't remember crying. Clara was gone. The words didn't make sense no matter how many times his mind repeated them. An officer knelt beside him gently. "Mr. Cross, we need you to come downstairs." Ethan nodded but didn't stand right away. He looked at his son. So small, so unaware of the weight now pressing down on his future. Ethan pressed his forehead to Leo's hair and breathed him in, as if memory itself might vanish if he let go. Downstairs, the house looked exposed. Drawers open, papers spread across tables. The illusion of control, his favorite illusion, was gone. Mira sat in handcuffs by the front door, calm even now. As Ethan passed, she met his eyes. "This wasn't just about revenge," she said quietly. "It was about truth." Ethan didn't answer. There was nothing left to say. The weeks that followed blurred together. Funeral arrangements, legal statements, headlines that twisted the story into something easier to consume. Accident, scandal, tragedy. None of the words touched the real wound. Ethan resigned as CEO, sold his shares, reopened the cases his company had buried. Compensation funds were established. Names were spoken aloud at last. It didn't bring Clara back. At night, Ethan rocked Leo to sleep himself. No nanny, no shortcuts, just silence and responsibility. Some nights he whispered apologies into the dark. Other nights, he simply cried. Years later, when Leo asked about his mother, Ethan told him the truth. Not the violence, but the courage. "She tried to protect us," he said. And every time Ethan passed the staircase where Clara fell, he slowed his steps. Because what he froze at that night wasn't just fear. It was the moment he realized that ignoring warnings can cost you everything, and listening too late is the cruelest lesson of all.